Hello and welcome to episode 85 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Of course, I am your host, Rick Doherty. Today we welcome my good friend Marissa from Chicago to start a 3-episode conversation about all of those announcements made this past weekend at the D23 Expo in Anaheim. Marissa and I will be talking almost exclusively about the announcements for what is and what is not coming to Walt Disney World from that conversation. In a future episode, Sarah Says will be here to discuss the various D23 announcements relating to Disneyland. I also have a quick piece of news that wasn't a part of D23 but may affect your next Walt Disney World vacation. September 30th will be the final showing of Kite Tales at Disney's Animal Kingdom. To put it kindly, the show opened to mixed reviews less than a year ago. I was lucky enough to catch a media preview for Kite Tales, and I thought it was cute, but I had no desire to ever see it again, although I will say I don't think it was intended for me. More importantly, the kids who were sitting around me really enjoyed it. I don't have strong thoughts about it either way, but I hope that we get something to replace it. Before we get started, Marissa and I got the chance to hang out at Disney's Hollywood Studios last week in an effort to continue my fundraising for CASA of Pinellas County, Florida, in the fight against domestic violence. I decided that if I got enough donations for CASA on that day, I would ride the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror for the very first time. I don't like drop rides, but many of you came through to help survivors of abuse. That's why I finally found the courage to ride it. If you want to see me take the plunge for the first time and spend some time with the two of us in Hollywood Studios, check out the vlog from that day on the Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty YouTube channel. The video aired for the first time on September 10th. Do us a favor and subscribe to the YouTube channel and like and comment on videos when you watch them. It will really help us continue to grow this community and do more great things. To donate to CASA of Pinellas County in honor of my recent pilgrimage on Ireland's National Famine Way and in honor of Marissa getting me to ride the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, go to casapinellas.org/walkwithrick/. That's casapinellas.org/walkwithrick/. There are no middlemen or processing fees, so every single dollar you donate goes directly to CASA so they can continue to help survivors of domestic violence. At various times in my life, I've tried to help domestic violence organizations. Back in Pennsylvania, I collected pillows for a shelter that made sure every woman and child who left for permanent housing left with comfy pillows. That was for my 35th birthday, and my goal was 35 pillows. We ended up collecting over 50 pillows for that organization. In 2021, I was named a recipient of the President's Bronze Volunteer Service Award for my work as a blog writer for a domestic violence organization. While I have found some success helping survivors, I do feel like sometimes it's not the easiest topic to discuss. Diseases like cancer, AIDS, and other illnesses don't have quote-unquote bad guys. It feels like it can happen to anyone and there's nobody to blame. We as a society have been pushing domestic violence into the shadows for too long, and I'm going to continue to live by the mantra that sunlight is the best disinfectant. Please, I understand this is not a cheery topic, but I am just asking that you donate so that we can help those women and children. casapinellas.org/walkwithrick/. Now I want to welcome the very first person to make a donation towards my fundraising efforts in association with my Ireland pilgrimage. Marissa from Chicago has very strong views about the announcements from this past weekend's D23 Expo in Anaheim, California. As always, thank you for joining us, Marissa.
Thanks for having me.
So this is something very cool that a lot of our listeners won't be able to tell because you sound the same, but you are actually recording this episode of the podcast from Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge. How is it staying at one of the best resorts on Walt Disney World property?
Yes, I am reporting live in a sense. It is gorgeous here. Oh my goodness. I went for a little walk the other night after dinner, and I stopped by the savannah and I watched some giraffes eating, and that was just such a cool experience that I definitely don't take it for granted. It's pretty amazing here.
Have you gotten the bread service from Sanaa yet?
Not yet. That's actually on the docket after this.
All right, then we definitely don't want to keep you waiting. Before we get into our main topic today, we were talking, before I started recording, about Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. We both went within the last week, and we both noticed something that was actually a surprising positive.
Yes, so we both went in the past week, and we both had previously gone in 2019. And we were just chatting, and Rick had said that he felt the crowds were lower. And I said, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I had said. I think that the crowds were much lower this past week when I went on a Friday, too, than they were in 2019 when I had gone. The waits were lower, fewer parade crowds. It was a noticeable difference.
And Marissa went on a Friday, I went on a Sunday, and you might say, well, Rick went on a Sunday, it was right when kids are going back to school, but these were completely sold out Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween parties, so I definitely think they are selling fewer tickets this year, which is big props to Disney, because they could just keep on selling these. Marissa might have gone on Sunday if they weren't already sold out when she got down here. So Disney could be making more money off of these things, and they're not, for the guest experience. And I think that happens so rarely that we do have to give them credit when it happens, because it's really important. And I had a much better time in 2022 at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party than I did in 2019. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, definitely. 2019 will always be, a special memory for me because that was the very first time I got to go to a Halloween party. But we had to sit and stake out a spot for the parade so far in advance. And, this past week we kind of just walked up and sat down and we were right at the front. So it was a big difference.
I had, and Marissa's cousin Natalie can attest to this because we let her kind of butt in front with us, the absolute best spot for the parade, and you're going to get to see some of that video coming up, I believe, this weekend on a vlog from Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. But Marissa, we're here to talk about one thing in particular, and that's those D23 announcements from this past weekend in Anaheim. We're going to focus mostly on Walt Disney World, but we're going to start with the one Disneyland announcement that I think also really affects you and is really interesting you. And that's the fact that Run Disney is returning to being bi-coastal. And in 2024, Run Disney races are coming back to California. What do you think about that?
Huge news. Huge. And I know it was something that people were speculating, but no one really wanted to get their hopes up for it. So it was a great announcement to get, very exciting. I know everyone now is hoping that we'll get themed coast-to-coast races back again. I think that that is likely, and I think that, like you were saying earlier, it's an opportunity for Disney to make more money, and usually they don't miss those. So I hope something comes back coast-to-coast. I had also said that the Disneyland race is coming back is a great venue for them to make a Marvel-themed weekend. And I would be kind of surprised if we didn't see that sometime soon.
I'll be talking about those West Coast announcements with Sarah Says on a future episode, so I'm going to get a little more into this. But getting back to what you said about Disney wanting to make money, I think with these announcements, they're trying to turn Disneyland into West Coast Walt Disney World. They are trying to turn Disneyland into a major vacation destination, so it is not as reliant on annual pass holders. I know a lot of Walt Disney World annual pass holders complain that they don't get treated well by Disney. Well, lately, Magic Key holders at Disneyland have really been having a lot of complaints. So I think they are trying to make that more like Walt Disney World for better or for worse, and we'll see how that turns out in the next few years. So let's get to it. Those Walt Disney World announcements from D23. We're going to do something a little rare and start with the positives. We usually start with the negatives and then go to the positives. But these are the things that we know for sure are coming to Walt Disney World. The first thing is a little positive and a little negative because it is a Figment meet and greet, which I think a lot of the Epcot nerds are so excited for the return of a Figment meet and greet. However, and I have in my notes here that I gave to Marissa, no update to the ride, ? What? Seriously? Thanks, Josh. So this ride needs TLC more than anything in Walt Disney World property, probably. The Journey into Imagination with Figment ride. I'm glad to get the meet and greet, but they got to fix this ride.
Yeah, I know. Oof, I know you said we're starting with positive here, and I'm going to come off real negative. And I feel like we generally are very positive people, so I apologize in advance for the turn that this might take. But it feels a little bit like throwing people a bone and being like, well, we're not going to do the overhaul or update that this ride desperately, desperately needs, but we're going to bring back a character that we already have, and we probably have the costume sitting in storage somewhere. So it just feels a little bit like a Band-Aid on something that's supposed to generate all this like excitement because Figment is so beloved that it's just kind of like, okay, so you can stand in a line and meet Figment and then go ride the ride that is kind of crummy at this point. I don't know. It's exciting, but it's not what we need.
And I know the internet, that usually is much, much less positive than the two of us, has this funny meme, the Choose Your Fighter, where Universal Orlando Resort has Epic Universe and Disney has a Figment meet and greet. It's definitely bringing a fork to a knife fight, but I'm happy to get the meet and greet, and just because they didn't announce anything about a change to the ride doesn't mean this ride won't be changing at some point soon. If anything, I think the combination of the Figment popcorn bucket combined with what is going to be a popular meet and greet with Figment might be an opportunity for Disney management to kind of dip their toe in the waters about whether they put an IP in the Imagination Pavilion or if they keep it Figment related. So this could actually be a good step for those of us who do like Figment. We're also going to move to something that is an announcement that is coming to Epcot, but probably Marissa and I are going to be pretty negative about this one too. And that's, there is a new nighttime spectacular for the 100 years of the Walt Disney Company. And it's going to be replacing Harmonious. We don't know if it's going to be replacing Harmonious forever, but Marissa and I loved this show. I know it's kind of controversial, but we both really love it. It's a fantastic show. It does what Epcot should do in the modern day, where it incorporates intellectual property. It incorporates those Disney movies you love, but it makes it feel like it belongs in World Showcase. We don't know what's replacing it yet, so we can't judge that, but what were your thoughts on seeing this?
Here's my kind of hot take. A lot of people dislike Harmonious solely because they dislike the barges. And I'm going to say right now, I will be shocked if the barges disappear. Those are very expensive. They spent a lot of time, a lot of money building that technology and interfacing that technology. I will be shocked if they say, you know what, we had it for 18 months and now it's gone. I think it's more likely we'll get a new special show, debuts for a short period of time. And I do think, or maybe hope, Harmonious will eventually come back after that, because I do love this show. It's such a great show. You get, here, I'm going to say it, the beautiful projections on the barges. It looks really, really nice. Plus, there's a great pyrotechnics aspect to it. The story is fantastic. Like you said, it is everything an Epcot nighttime spectacular should be. I'm excited to see the new show. If they continue in this direction, I think it's going to be fabulous as well. But I do really hope that Harmonious isn't gone forever.
I feel like some of the less reputable internet sources by using Twitter as my show prep, but I'm just going to say right now that I saw a tweet that I thought was hilarious where somebody said, it really feels like this announcement was made because one of the higher ups was walking around World Showcase and saw the barges and how ugly they looked during the day. And they made this like top down decision. And that is such a ridiculous take because there's absolutely no way they didn't know how these barges looked in Epcot. And I agree with you 100%. Are they a little bit of an eyesore during the day? Yes, they are. My friend Jeff calls it the unblinking eye of Bargemonius. But when you get those projections, when you're doing a Run Disney race and you run through World Showcase before the suns come up in the morning, and they have projections on it. It's beautiful. Yes, it doesn't look great during the day, and they're going to have to either figure out something or we're just going to have to learn to put on our big boy pants and accept it. But this show is so good, and the people hating on it are wrong.
I agree. And I know that like originally there was concept art for it being fountains during the day. And we haven't seen that yet, and that is something that I would really love to see them do because I think that would completely change how they look during the day. It would turn it from an eyesore into something at least marginally prettier to look at. So I think that would help a lot too if they could kind of figure out how to get that working.
We're going to stay on the topic of nighttime spectaculars, and I think we're both so stoked about this. Happily Ever After isn't necessarily returning the nighttime spectacular at Magic Kingdom, but they said the song is going to be returning in some form or fashion in an updated nighttime spectacular. And I think that's basically their way of bringing back Happily Ever After, but not admitting defeat on Enchantment, the new nighttime spectacular that's running right now.
I have a surprising amount of thoughts on this. When it was first announced, I was like, yes, Happily Ever After, here we go. And as I sat with it for a bit, I realized that there are some things about Enchantment that I do like. Namely, I feel like the update with Walt and Mickey really brings the show together in a way that gave me a new appreciation for it. And I just saw it this trip, and I was like, what? Why wasn't this here from the beginning? It would have been a totally different show. But one thing I do really, really love about Enchantment is how many more fireworks there are than there were in Happily Ever After. It is a much more pyrotechnics heavy show. And I would love to see Disney say, okay, we're going to rework Happily Ever After, add a few new scenes or stories in from maybe some new movies. That's fine. Keep the theme and add more fireworks, as well as those Main Street projections. I think that, again, it's another resource that they just put all that technology and funding into. I don't see that going away. But I'm really, really excited to see what they do because I do think Happily Ever After, the song, is the perfect song for ending a night at Magic Kingdom. It just captures that feeling and that emotion so well. And I'm so excited to hear it again.
In my humble opinion, there are 3 songs that you hear at Walt Disney World occasionally. And once you've heard them, you have them in your head for the next week, week and a half. And they are Boo to You from the Boo to You parade at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, which is obviously running through my head all this week. The song from the Rainy Day Character Cavalcade or the Rainy Day Parade. And then there's Happily Ever After. For a week, 2 weeks after you see Happily Ever After, you're walking around going, find your happily ever after. And it is just in your head constantly. It is iconic while being new. And I saw Enchantment fairly recently. It was the first time I had ever seen it. And I was having this conversation with your cousin Natalie just the other day, and I was having a hard time describing how I felt when I saw Enchantment, and she's just like, you were whelmed. And I'm like, that's That is exactly how I felt. I wasn't underwhelmed. I wasn't overwhelmed. I just saw it and then I left. And then I walked around the walkway to the Grand Floridian and then I went to the Polynesian and I got a cupcake. And the cupcake was just as memorable as the fireworks show. And that probably shouldn't be the case. So while I'm not negative about Enchantment, I felt that Happily Ever After had more oomph.
Yeah, it definitely has a much greater emotional impact. I think the story is more cohesive for Happily Ever After. You really get a sense of that hero's journey and working to find your happily ever after, and it pulls on your heartstrings, at least pulls on my heartstrings, a whole lot more. Enchantment, I think, kind of feels a little disjointed at moments where you're not really getting a story, you're getting more of a clip show. And my favorite thing about Enchantment, I think, is that because of all the fireworks, it's nice to watch it from Fantasyland and not deal with the Main Street crowds. That's the one plus, because I don't really care about the projections. I can just watch the fireworks and be like, all right, that was fun. But Happily Ever After, I'm going to have to be finding my way, throwing some elbows, getting my spot back in front of the castle. And you know what? I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
And I will admit that Happily Ever After was the fireworks show that was there the last time I came to Walt Disney World on vacation. So it obviously has more of an iconic feel to me. I remember having to make time to see Happily Ever After the first day of our vacation in 2018. I wanted to make sure my wife Courtney was there, had a good spot, could see Happily Ever After. And now the nighttime spectaculars at Magic Kingdom are just something where maybe I'll do every couple of months if I feel like it. So I do get that I'm in a different position now. I'm stoked about this one. I know a lot of people are going back and forth on it, but I'm excited. I think it was overdue, and that is Hatbox Ghost is coming to the East Coast, going to be added to Haunted Mansion at Walt Disney World. If you haven't been on the West Coast or you don't know, Hatbox Ghost is another iconic character, we're using that iconic word again, from Disneyland's Haunted Mansion, and I've wanted Hatbox Ghost in Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World for years. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, this one's all positive for me. This is such a great idea. It's one of those things where you're like, I can't believe we didn't have this sooner. I'm so glad it's coming. It's going to be such a fun addition to the ride, and it's going to make such a big difference, even though it's a relatively minor addition. But he's such a fun character. I'm so excited to see Hatbox Ghost come to Magic Kingdom.
And now I'm going to promote one of my own tweets because I thought this was funny. I posted, Walt Disney World fans, I can't believe the only thing we got out of D23 is Hatbox Ghost. Disneyland fans, I can't believe they let Walt Disney World have Hatbox Ghost. So there has been a little bit of a fight where Disneyland wanted him all to themselves. However, give us something. We got a Figment meet and greet and the return of an old nighttime show. So let us have something, Disneyland, please.
Yeah, we'll take all we can get. Really, we're not going to be picky. I say as we're dissecting everything they've announced, but please give us something.
And we did get some updates on something that we will be getting in the spring of 2023. I think it was announced at D23 1988, and that's the Tron Light Cycle Coaster. It is finally going to be opening in just a few months. They've been doing test runs on the vehicles. It seems like the only work they still have to do on the construction, at least judging from riding the People Mover recently, is more cosmetic work. I can't wait till they finally get this ride going.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this ride. Every time, we go by it on the People Mover, you sit there and you're looking at it and you're watching the construction. It just looks like such a fun ride. And obviously we know what the concept is going to be like, and I'm very, very excited to ride it. I am a little surprised that they announced the opening season for this ride and didn't mention the railroad. I thought that once they said Tron Spring 2023, they'd go, and Walt Disney Railroad also Spring 2023. because I know that's something that a lot of people are waiting on, but I'm hoping that it opens with the ride.
When I went to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party on Sunday, I went with our good friend Jillian. She's been on the show a few times. She's going to be in the video. And one of the treat locations was in Pete's Silly Sideshow in the back of New Fantasyland. It was the railroad station stop in New Fantasyland. And I just remember looking at the tracks and thinking, this is going to be insane the day they finally open this. And I said to Jillian, I wonder if they're just never going to announce when it reopens, because they know that that would be such a nightmare to try to control the crowds when they reopen the railroad, because you can stay on the railroad. It's not like other rides where you can get on and then once you go through your one revolution, you have to get off the ride. You can stay on the railroad all day. And with Walt Disney World culture, and yes, I'm guilty, I'm part of this, but it's going to be vloggers for the first 3-4 days. Like, there's no way to open this with an announced date that is going to be seamless, is going to be easy to handle.
Well, even without an announced date, though, I feel like, news travels so fast now. All it takes is one person being there and posting on Facebook or Twitter, on Instagram, or being like, oh my gosh, the railroad is open. And then everyone's running there.
Yes, Marissa, but we have Park Pass reservations now. So
True.
They could immediately cut the annual pass holder Park Pass reservations that day for Magic Kingdom. I know there'd be park hopping. I know there'd be stuff like that, but they might be able to do that on the last second. That might be not just for this, obviously, but one of the reasons that the park passes have stayed is so that they can do something like this and do a soft open without being bombarded by first culture in the Orlando area. Just a thought.
That's a good thought. Just remind me to stay off social media for that day, because it's going to be an absolute cesspool of people upset. But
when is social media not an absolute cesspool, Marissa?
Hey, we have fun.
We do, but a lot of people don't.
A lot of people don't. But yeah, I do wonder if they'll have some sort of ride limit, at least for the first month or so, to say, okay, you completed a revolution, now get off, and you can get back on later or get in line to get back on. I don't even know how they manage that, but I have to think that it's going to be pretty busy for quite some time since it's been down for so long.
Another thing that we knew we were getting, but now we have an opening date, is Moana's Journey of Water in Epcot. And seeing the construction for this recently, I honestly thought they were further along than late 2023. I know we're getting a 16-foot Tafiti statue, which looks off the charts cool. I'm excited for this, but let's start opening some of this Epcot stuff. I'm going to be there on October 1st, which is going to be the 40th anniversary of Epcot. Like, I made my park pass reservation. I had to renew my annual pass so I could quickly grab one and not miss out, have all those reservations be gone. And we're not getting anything for the 40th anniversary of Epcot. I know they're getting a whole new park, but it just felt like some of this stuff that had been in the works for years and looks close. It looks like it's almost done. I can't believe we're not getting it sooner than late 2023.
Remember when we were going to get a new Spaceship Earth refurb for the 40th anniversary of Epcot?
Don't get to the what we didn't get section yet,
sorry,
Marissa.
Sorry, spoilers. All right.
You already blew the railroad announcement that was...
I'm sorry.
This is where we're going to leave things off on this episode of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Marissa will be back next Thursday on episode 86 to continue talking about these announcements from D23. In a few weeks, Sarah Says will be on the show to cover the D23 announcements having to do with the Disneyland Resort. We're excited about an e-ticket ride coming to Avengers Campus. a new land themed towards Big Hero 6, and most importantly, a Mandalorian and Baby Yoda meet and greet at the West Coast version of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Just taking a look at some of the things coming up on the Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty YouTube channel. This weekend, I'll be bringing you 2 vlogs from a recent Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party at Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World. On Monday, you can see the 8th installment in my vlog series from my pilgrimage on Ireland's National Famine Way. It means the world to me that so many of you have been watching these videos. Please make sure you are subscribed to the Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty YouTube page. When you're there, like videos and leave us some nice comments. As I said, Marissa will be back next Thursday to continue sharing her strong opinions on what Walt Disney World is getting after the D23 Expo announcements. Until then, have a great week.